Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Data Playbook. We're in week 16 and had our Thursday night game, and now we have a couple Saturday games here, so let's go through both of those today. For your second Saturday game, you have Green Bay going to Chicago, where Chicago is favored on the money line with a spread of 1.5 and a total line of 46.5. If you need your team's seasonal averages, they're down here. While we go through the rankings, starting with Green Bay and their offense, you have a pretty average offense with a scoring rate of 10, a passing rate of 13, and a rushing rate of 18. And then defensively, they have a top third in the league with an allowed scoring rate of 8, allowed passing rate of 7, and allowed rushing rate of 8, and then also an allowed tight end rate of 5. With Chicago, you have a mixed offense with a scoring rate of 9, a passing rate of 19, but a pretty good rushing rate of 2. And then defensively, it's about the opposite with an allowed scoring rate of 21, allowed passing rate of 18, and an allowed rushing rate of 23. Moving into our individual player data, you have Jordan Love and Caleb Williams, with Love averaging about 16.5 fantasy points per game, and Williams averaging about 18.4. Here's their seasonal averages, while we look at turnovers, with Jordan Love having 6 interceptions this season, and 2 fumbles lost due to sacks, and you have Williams also with 6 interceptions this season, with 1 fumble lost due to sacks. For their rushing share, you have Jordan Love with 12.7% of the rushing carry share, and 13.4% of the rushing yard share. And then with Williams, you have 16.2% of the rushing carry share and 16.6% of the rushing yard share. For your running backs, you have Josh Jacobs, who is listed as questionable, and then DeAndre Swift, who is also listed as questionable. Josh Jacobs averages about 17.8 fantasy points per game, and Swift has been averaging about 14.8. Moving over for their averages, and then with their turnovers, you have Josh Jacobs with 1 rushing fumble, and Swift with 2 rushing fumbles this season. And then for your share, you have Josh Jacobs with 61.7% of the carry share and about 62% of the rushing yard share, with the next largest portion going to Emmanuel Wilson, with about a quarter of all the team's carries and rushing yards. And then on Chicago with Swift, you have him at 45.6% of the rushing carry share and 46.4% of the rushing yard share, at about a third of the team's carry and rushing yards. Going to Kyle Monagai. Moving into your receivers, you have Christian Watson and DJ Moore. And you have DJ Moore because Rome Odunze is listed as out, with Watson averaging about 13.3 fantasy points per game, and Moore averaging about 10.5. Moving over for their seasonal averages. And then looking at your charts, you have Christian Watson with about 11.6% of the target share, and about 15.7% of the receiving yard share. And for Moore, you have 16.8% of the target share, and 18% of the receiving yard share. Next up, we have Romeo Doubs, and maybe Alame Zacchaeus, because Luther Burden is also listed as out. So you have Doubs averaging about 9.7 fantasy points per game, and Zacchaeus about 6.1. Here's their averages. And with no turnovers, we'll go right to the charts, where you have Doubs at 20.5% of the target share and 18.9% of the receiving yard share, which does make him the most productive receiver on the team. And you have Zacchaeus at 14.2% of the target share and 8.9% of the receiving yard share. And of course, always wrapping up with your tight ends, you have Luke Musgrave and Colston Loveland, with Musgrave averaging 3.5 fantasy points per game, and Loveland averaging about 8.6. There's your averages for the season. And then again, no turnovers, so we'll go right to the charts, where you have Musgrave at 7.5% of the target share and 7% of the receiving yard share, and then Loveland at 12.7% of the target share and 15.9% of the receiving yard share. So there's your data for this game. It should be an interesting one to watch, especially with Chicago not having such a good receiving game potentially. With a couple top receivers being out, they may have to really rely on this rushing rank, which does beat out Green Bay's allowed rushing rank, but they still have a pretty good one, top third in the league. And then overall, since Chicago's not going to be able to rely on the passing rank, I don't know if they're going to do so well against Green Bay's defense, making Chicago having a really tough time maybe scoring, even though they have a good scoring rank. And then here, it looks like Green Bay's better across the board against Chicago's defense. So the way those numbers line up make me think that Green Bay really has the edge here instead of Chicago, even though it's in Chicago. So that wraps up the data for that game. I hope that you enjoyed and it was informative. And if it was, leave a like and subscribe. And leave a comment on what other data you want to see in the future. But other than that, thank you so much for watching. And I'll see you for the Sunday games.